This is Nan McKay, and I would like to introduce you today to Elle Travis. Elle is founder and CEO of Caregivers of Mother Earth, a nonprofit on a mission to conduct educational programs for youth to engender a love and appreciation for Mother Earth. She's also fulfilling a passion by writing children's books to introduce them to the concept of being one with nature. She's been a pioneer for women since the mid-1970s and is now a pioneer into the world of alternative and energy healing. So welcome, Elle.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nan. Thank you for that nice introduction.
You attended Appalachian State University in Western North Carolina. Did you grow up in that area?
I grew up close by. I was born right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. Went to high school, all my schooling in Charlotte. And Boone, where Appalachian State University is located, is about 2 hours west of there.
Okay. So who would you say is your biggest influence growing up?
You know, I've been blessed all my life, but I was blessed with wonderful parents. And I would have to say that my mother really was a strong influence, maybe the strongest influence in my life, because she taught me that I could do anything. And if I wanted something, to go get it. So it's kind of a funny story, but I was, I guess, 12 years old, and it was about the time that designer clothes were coming out. And my mother had always been making my clothes. She was quite good with the sewing machine. And I said, I wanted to get some store-bought clothes. And she's like, well, if you want to do that, you're going to have to go earn some money. So I saw where I could get cheerful greeting cards and sell them. And so I ordered a box of cheerful greeting cards. And I went out to start selling them, and nobody wanted to buy my cards. And I came back home, and I was upset, and my mother said, you're not coming in until you sell some cards. Now get back out there and sell some cards. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't get any loving from my mother. She just sent me back out there, but it was the best lesson I could have, because within one or two more knocks on the door, I sold a lot of cards, and I came home elated. And I realized just then and there that you can't take no to mean no. You just have to keep going. And so those are the types of lessons that my mother taught me, and I'm forever grateful.
And it took some of the fear out of it, didn't it?
Yeah, because I was afraid, when people were saying, no, I don't want your cards. And then I got home and my mother said, you're getting back out there. And so I was like, well, I'm more afraid of her than I am of going and knocking on another door.
Well, I think we all need a mother like that. One of the things that I think stops so many people is the fear of people saying no to them. Mm-hmm. And I always look at it and think, well, if somebody tells me no, then I'm no further behind than I was when I started. So what the heck?
Right. Over the years, I learned that it takes like 10 or 20 no's to get to yes. And so I turned it into a game. And I think I always lived my life as if it was an adventure, and no, just kind of, I let it roll off my back.
What adversity have you overcome that women and mothers could relate to today?
Oh my goodness, so much. And again, I think everybody has adversity, and it's like the adversity does build character and it builds strength. But I was in high school. I had a younger brother at the time that was in like 5th grade, and I was a senior in high school. My brother was off to college, and my father had just lost his job, and he got deathly ill and with diverticulitis. And my mother went to visit him, and it was in the winter, and then she slipped and fell on the ice and messed up her back. And so she had to have surgery. And so here I was, a senior in high school, pretty much taking care of my younger brother, making sure he's getting on the bus to school, etc. And I'm taking care of myself and the household. And so that was a lot to get through, but I learned quickly about community and neighbors and how everybody kind of pulled together. And that was a lot of adversity, but we got through it. And again, back to my mother, because my dad had lost his job back then, they didn't extend health benefits like they do now with COBRA. And so when he lost his job, which was no fault of his own, he didn't have a computer background. He was the assistant vice president of accounting. And so they brought in a new person that had computer skills. And my dad actually trained him for 6 months before they let my father go. So my mother had the courage to go back to that business while my dad was deathly ill and basically talk to my dad's former boss and say, you need to do the right thing. You need to offer health insurance for us. And they agreed, and they did. And I mean, you know, without her having the courage to do that, we could have lost our home and everything.
That's really fantastic. And when you think about health insurance and how expensive it is, but how necessary it is, especially today, it was important even back then, but even more so, I suppose, today.
Oh, right. Yes. I mean, the cost of a hospital visit, well, it's just crazy.
You've been a pioneer in 2 areas. Let's talk about your management experience first, and then we'll get into the fun part, which is your writing of children's books. Now, you were hired into business traditionally held by men, into those positions traditionally held by men in the 1970s. So tell us a little bit about some of the positions that you held and what challenges you had in those positions.
Well, that's a lot of fun for me to talk about because I graduated with a business degree in 1975, and many large companies were kind of under an edict from the federal government to start bringing women into positions that were traditionally held by men. I didn't really understand that. I didn't know a lot about that, but when I applied at places like Ford Motor Company and so on, I found out very quickly that they wanted to bring a woman in, and they had interviewed over 100 women before they flew me to Detroit, wined and dined me, and hired me in a position as a zone manager for the Carolinas. And it was interesting because I was the 40th female for all of Ford Motor Company in the United States. So it was very different, you know, when I would go into a dealership, and trust me, I mean, these are powerful men that own these dealerships, right? And here I was, you know, 21, 22, and I was in a position to tell them what allocation of cars and trucks they could have and what they couldn't. So it was very, very much a learning process. I would learn from them, they would learn from me, and it was really, really groundbreaking.
And what was maybe hard, or was your challenge, was just getting them to accept you as a woman?
Well, that was definitely a challenge. You know, I can remember so many times that I would be in there and they're like, well, I'm going to call so-and-so. And so try to go over my head with me sitting there in the room. And so they would call my boss, and my boss would say, you need to listen to her because she's got your allocation. And so they cut, you know, what do you call it? They had my back, and that was important. So it didn't take long before they knew that I was there and that I was doing the job and I was doing it well.
Now, back in the 70s, tell me how you dressed to one of those interviews.
Well, women had to wear suits, right? Like pantsuits, and they had little ribbon kind of ties, you know, that they would wear with their blouses and things. They always had a bow. and they were pretty much polyester, a lot of bell bottoms and things like that. But I can remember, those pantsuits, and that was kind of the norm for women back then, was to wear pantsuits.
Well, it even was a big deal when you got to wear a pantsuit, because I'm about, I think, 10 years older than you are. And I do remember the only way we could dress was to wear a dress. And then we had to have hose, and we had to have high heels. You ever go through any of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When the next job, I'll just jump to that one, was with a division of IBM, and they actually gave you a book, Dress for Success, How to Dress, and it was the handbook. And so, yeah, you had certain things you could wear and not wear, and it was interesting. But again, times were changing, and I kind of would imitate a successful man. I would see somebody doing the job, and I would listen to them, and I would say, okay, I can do that. So I would, again, take it in little intervals and bites, and try to just pull myself up by the bootstraps, and say, okay, you can do it. Just go in there with a smile and say what you need to say, and get it done. And it worked. So
I think I remember that book you're talking about, Dress for Success. And that was entirely for women, if I remember right.
Yeah.
The
IBM
men, of
actually
course,
put it out.
Already.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't have to worry about keeping their seams straight on their hose or anything like that.
No.
So let's talk about your business now. How and why, I guess, did you segue into starting your own business?
Well, there was a transition period around 2012 when I kind of left corporate. I took a package and moved from the Raleigh-Durham area, the Research Triangle Park, up to the mountains near Asheville. And so during that time, it gave me an opportunity to really explore more about, who am I now, and what do I want to do with this next third of my year, of my life, right? And so I was kind of on a quest to seek out what is my purpose, what is it that I want to do. And I discovered very quickly that I am tied to nature. I've always been a gardener. I always loved nature, but I had the opportunity to start taking courses and really learn more about the world of alternative healing modalities. And that was kind of the doorway into learning more about healing modalities, healing touch, and cranial sacral, just all kinds of different modalities that are available that are alternative healing practices. So that was kind of the doorway into it. And then I was learning so much information about the food we eat, our microbiome, how to stay healthy by eating the right food. I mean, I'll be 69 in a couple of weeks. I don't take any prescriptions at all. And it's because making the right choices for my food. And all of that started back, well before I left corporate life. So I guess having said all of that, I was just discovering a whole new world out there. And I really heard the calling that children need to connect with nature at an early age. If they don't connect with nature at an early age, they miss out on so much. I can remember back to my childhood, every morning after I did my chores, I was off to the playground in the summertime, and I couldn't get enough play in my life. And now I look at children and their own tablets, their own phones and things like that, playing video games. And so I thought, well, I'm going to write stories for children to help connect them to nature. And that's what kind of led to writing the stories. It also led to me setting up a nonprofit called Caregivers of Mother Earth. And I am dedicated for the rest of my life to be on a mission to work with children and to get them to really understand and love nature.
I'm curious, a little bit of a segue, but I'm curious, what would you advise women, particularly women entrepreneurs, who are usually in a hurry, grabbing things as they go to simply sustain themselves, and probably not eating as healthily as they should? Have you got any magic formula that you can give us that will kind of get us on a better path?
Well, when you think about what you're eating, think about, is it alive or is it dead? Does it raise your vibration or does it lower your vibration? So, excuse me, anytime you can have an opportunity to have something that's high vibrational food that your body is kind of looking for, that's what I would tend to kind of go towards. Some days you might feel like, oh, I'm dry and parched, I need to eat soup. Listen to your body, because your body is telling you what you need.
Okay, so I'll have to be more in tune with my body than I probably am, because I know
Yes.
I'm guilty of just running from one thing to another.
Yes, I mean, sometimes I'm like, I just really need something grounding. I need some food that's going to really ground me, and I might have a baked potato, right? So just think about, what is your body calling for, and always make sure that you're getting a lot of color in your diet. Think about the colors of the rainbow, and make sure you get all those good antioxidants from your peppers and different foods.
Interesting. How did you financially segue over into kind of your own business? How'd you do that from the corporate life over to making your own money?
Well, so far, I've been kind of financing this all by myself. And I've been very fortunate that I was able to invest and put my money aside as I was going through my corporate years. And then recently, like in the past 3 years, I totally downsized. I had a big house and I said, I don't need all this. So getting rid of the mortgage, getting rid of a lot of payments, I don't need a lot now. So it's a lot easier than you might think when your needs are not as demanding as, say, someone that's starting a family and trying to put their child through a lot of different schools and things. So I guess I'm just managing to take the money that I saved and invested and live wisely off of it.
If you had one strategy to give somebody who's thinking about starting a business, what would you say? Have you got any ideas or thoughts about that?
Well, go slow. Don't be hasty. Talk to a lot of people that maybe have done what you want to do, and get into a position where you can collaborate. This past year, I've been networking with so many local people, and the reception has been wonderful. So it's very important now that we collaborate. In the past, when I guess I was in the mid-70s, everything was competition. And now it's more, let's be partners, let's work together, let's bring things along together. So if someone's wanting to start their own business, network, talk to people, make sure that you have a good foundation before you take that leap.
How did you get your books started? How did you get from an idea, and then you go through the writing, but then you have the illustrations, and then you have to get it published, and then you have to get it onto Amazon? Tell us just a little bit about that process for you.
Well, let me just say it was magical. It was a magical process. I've never seen anything unfold like this before. So I had the idea to write the children's stories. And one day I was just out walking my wonderful dog, and I went on a road that I'd never been on. And I ran into a family with a little boy on a bicycle. And we just started this conversation, and it led to the creation of a story. And I came home, and within 2 hours, I'd written the story. And it led to just the unfolding of, the little boy and the storyteller, and she becomes the storyteller in the school, and she gets the kids to go out into nature, and then she talks to them about her grandmother's farm, and just one thing led to another. And so I wrote 13 stories. 13 stories, and they're collected in by season into 4 books. And I didn't know if we were going to be on video or not, but like Spring Magic, Summer Fun, and Fall into Autumn. And they all have neat little characters, different animals and things that come to life. But the narrator and what holds this all together is a little fairy called Light Feather. And so all of these stories just started coming, and they have different messages like be grateful, all different types of things that you want children to be instilled with at an early age. So that process was magical, just writing the stories. And then the second part, I have a best friend who lives in Montecito, California, and she was walking on the beach, and she ran into someone who was an author, and she said, "Oh, my dear friend back in North Carolina wants to get her books published, her stories published." And so that led to an introduction to the Awakened Press, who I then communicated with and wrote a proposal to, and they accepted it and said that they wanted to work with me to get the books published. Now, at the same time that I was magically writing these stories, I said, well, I need an illustrator. So I called a friend, and she said, oh, you need to talk to this person. And so I talked to this person who taught art at the college. And she said, I have the perfect person for you. Her name is Jenny Camp. And so I called Jenny, and she said, oh, it's on my bucket list to illustrate children's books. And so, boom, I found an illustrator, I found a publisher, the stories came to me. And as I was writing the stories, that's where the whole idea of making all of the stories and all of the royalties from the books to go to a nonprofit to help children really get out there, not only read about it, but hands-on, get out and get in the dirt, and grow a garden. So it's been, it'll be the end of February will be 2 years. All of this has happened in less than 2 years.
Wow.
It's big, isn't it?
It really is. And it also says that maybe everything magically does come together when you're doing what you really should do.
Yeah, I believe that. It's like, I would tell people, I said, the wind is in my sails, and so I'm just going to keep going, until I hit a dead end road or something. I don't believe in pushing anymore. And I think that comes with age. As you maybe have this wisdom that comes with age, you're like, if it's not easy, maybe you're not supposed to be doing it. You don't want to try to put a square peg in a round hole. So I've just been having so much fun. I mean, I've met the mayor of our town. We've had illustrations in the story about a bee city, which Hendersonville is a bee city, USA. And I've met, the Environmental Sustainability Board, and I've presented to them, and just, met so many wonderful people in our city. And I just could go on for a long time about the networks that have been created and how it's just coming to life.
What would you say are the top 3 takeaways that you'd like people to have gotten from your interview today?
Well, I think with what we're talking about right now is that, go with the flow, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, go merrily, right? So one of the things I think is that timing is everything. I couldn't have done anything that I've done in my life without the opportunities that were there for me to take advantage of, right? And so my whole life has been really this amazing ride, this adventure. And I think people need to look at their life and not feel like they have to have it figured out, but, look at it as an adventure and make sure that they're having fun.
One of the things I think I'm hearing is have your antenna up, be thinking about, I wonder if that would work with this. That's what I'm hearing you say, that don't close your mind, keep your mind open and see what comes up.
I would say always be a lifelong learner. Never stop learning. I mean, even yesterday, we were getting 12 inches of snow, which is a lot for where I am. It's a lot for most people in a day, but we were in the middle of a big snowstorm. So it was one of those days where you just wanted to cocoon with a good book or something like that. And so I was really having fun learning about cymatics, the sound, right, of frequency, and I was just learning so much. So I would encourage people to continue to learn. Don't let a day go by that you're not looking for a new word or something that you can add to your knowledge base.
Add to your bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I do believe that we're at a time that is going to require a lot of collaboration because there's big problems, there's big issues. We need to come together and realize that we are community, that we are all in the boat together, and we're going to either rise together or we're going to sink together. And it's really time to embrace our commonality and not worry so much about our difference, because at the end of the day, if we look at nature as our guide, we are really connected in this web. And so I guess my final thoughts would be to find joy in simple pleasures, keep a smile on your face, go inward. I truly believe that if we heal ourselves, if we spend time in meditation and prayer, listening with our antenna up, that we will be guided to the next step. And once you determine what that next step is, let it envelop your heart, let it wash all over you, and feel it with your feelings as if it's already possible, it's already happening. And then you'll be surprised that it will, in the right timing, come to pass. So keep dreaming. You're never too young, you're never too old to dream big.
I love that. Thank you so much, Elle, for all your thoughts and for your great advice. It makes such a difference to just think about focusing on the commonalities and not focusing on the differences. And that's what I heard you say.
Yeah.
I have purchased your books for my granddaughter, and
thank you.
Others will do the same. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing and finally finding the lifestyle entrepreneurship, I guess, that is being the wind beneath your own wings.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nan, for doing what you do and giving me this opportunity to share.